Late one night in December 2018, several residents of a small rural area near Anthony heard an explosion and smelled gas. A gasoline pipeline had burst, spilling more than 10,000 barrels of fuel into a drainage ditch. The pipeline was temporarily shut off and repaired. A cleanup crew recovered much of the gas, but tens of thousands of gallons soaked into the ground, contaminating soil and groundwater. Nearly 2 months after the spill, cleanup efforts were still underway, and the site still smelled like gasoline.
It smells like I'm standing about 4 feet from a gasoline pump.
Shannon Reynolds is a Doña Ana County commissioner. He stood near the drain, which was being excavated.
You can see behind me, there's a big backhoe that's actually digging the dirt down, and they're still bringing the damaged soil, or the soil that actually has gasoline in it, and they're piling it up on the side of the ditch here for later removal to a safe location.
Reynolds wants to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, but the county and the state of New Mexico don't have much control over the pipeline. That's because it's an interstate pipeline, spanning 3 states and nearly 300 miles. The Santa Fe Pacific Pipeline runs from El Paso to Tucson, pumping more than 3,000 barrels of gas every hour. It's owned by energy giant Kinder Morgan, one of the largest pipeline companies in North America. Interstate pipelines are regulated by the federal government, specifically the Department of Transportation's Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA. The agency oversees about 2.5 million miles of pipelines nationwide. The state does oversee the remediation process whenever there's a spill involving a water contaminant, like gasoline. Justin Ball is with the New Mexico Environment Department. When a pipeline bursts or a transfer truck rolls over on the highway, his office gets involved.
They need to tell us what they spilled, how they spilled it, where they spilled it, who they are, who owns the property, who's the operator, basic information, and need to tell us within 24 hours of the spill.
Then they come up with a remediation plan, which his department has to approve and monitor.
There is a specific process for them to clean up the site and for us to overview it and give our judgments on that.
But when it comes to actual pipeline, the state doesn't have much power. PHMSA is the one making sure Kinder Morgan takes corrective measures to figure out what caused the pipeline break and work to prevent other leaks in the future. It also determines when the company can turn the line back on. That makes Commissioner Shannon Reynolds uneasy.
One of the things that I was concerned with when we first started talking about this is the fact that they restarted the gas line before they actually knew what the problem was.
And he says they didn't perform internal testing on the rest of the pipeline before they turned on the gas to see if other sections were compromised.
I'm also concerned that because those pipes are old, that we run the risk of another pipe bursting somewhere near this community in a very short amount of time.
Reynolds says the state can address the cleanup.
What I'd rather do is I'd rather address the cause and use some preventive measures to make sure that we don't have a spill like this again, ever.
One measure he'd like to see: automatic shutoff valves near residential areas. So when there's a sudden dramatic drop in pressure, the gas stops flowing immediately. Alan Four is a spokesperson with Kinder Morgan. He understands these concerns, but stresses the company followed federal regulations.
The agency that regulates our operations said it was safe to put the pipeline back in operation. So we followed their regulations, which include a pressure test. That's the standard process for understanding the integrity of a pipeline. That was done.
Four says pipelines are the safest way to transport critical products like gas, and that the vast majority of these products make it to their final destinations.
That means the gasoline in this line gets to our facilities and then to gas stations and then to your cars. So it's the best way to transport. It's not a perfect system. We're always trying to make it better. And you do have incidents. And what you do from those is you learn from those. And you make sure that you review exactly what happened. And right now, that will help us and other operators and the regulatory agencies better understand how we can make our pipeline systems even safer.
Still, some local officials like Shannon Reynolds would like more of a hand in making the pipeline system safer, since it runs through local counties and they're the ones affected when things go wrong. For KRWG Public Media, I'm Mallory Falk.